الاقتصادية والتعاون الدولي أيضا عشان تعرض علينا يعني مجموعة أخبار مهمة فيما يخص أداء الاقتصاد المصري ومؤشرات الناتج المحلي الإجمالي للفترة السابقة. واسمحوا لي يمكن هبدأ بالحدث المهم اللي حضراتكم تابعتوه امبارح.
I'd like to start with an important event that you followed yesterday.
أمس برئاسة الرئيس عبد الفتاح السيسي رئيس الجمهورية وصاحب السمو الملكي الأمير محمد بن سلمان ولي عهد المملكة ورئيس مجلس الوزراء السعودي. والحقيقة يمكن طبعا
Maybe, of course, the visit implemented
المهمة جدا جدا
in kind many more important messages.
طبعا
Of course,
مهم من
an important part of the talks was about the regional issues and the complete coordination between Egypt and Saudi Arabia in this regard, and the tacklement of the rapid developments taking place in the region between the two sides. Of course, we also tackled the challenges in different disputive areas, and again, both views were agreed on how to unify efforts in the attempt to avoid the region these conflicts. The most important part is in regards to bilateral relationship. As you witnessed, we were honored with President and the conference as they witnessed the signature of the High Supreme Coordination Council through which we have complete coordination between two countries, and and choosing or assigning ministers. And of course, this council will work or aim at activating and strengthening the relationship between two countries, and hopefully we will witness a hype in the upcoming stages. And also you witnessed the signature of the exchanging investments between Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and thank God we managed to complete them in a very short time. And of course, thank God both ministers signed them. And as I told you previously on the margin of my visit to the kingdom, the upcoming stage will put the fundamentals of attracting investments in both countries to protect them, and of course it stipulates measures that aim to facilitate and boost the cooperation between the two countries, and of course it will be a start to increase Saudi investments in the upcoming period. And I also wanted to inform you that this is an important file. We also tackled the industry files, and we tackled that the upcoming investments will be joint in industry and also different sectors for both economies. And also we reiterated the monitoring of new and renewable energy projects that being implemented on lands, most on top of which is the Saudi-Egypt linked project. And we aim at complete the linking at the end of upcoming May or next May, which will be an important advantage in between countries. So Egypt will be able to benefit will use the electricity from Saudi Arabia and vice versa. And this is an important point that this project that is worth about 3,000 megawatt. These 3,000 is bigger than the capacity of the whole Gulf region, just in order for you to be aware of how much big is this project. And we are pacing time to implement this project. And the other part that I'd like to tackle, and we have more than one point before leaving the floor to my colleague, and before receiving our questions, of course, we witnessed, all of us, presidents, with the presence of the president, with the forum, and the ceremony, or the 51st anniversary ceremony of the glorious October victory. And this forum, President Abdel Fattah Sisi's referenced many points that I would like to highlight, that we are moving within turbulent circumstances in the region, posing on us, which despite our stance of peace, this is an important point we all as Egyptians need to know, because this is the only way to protect our stability and peace. Without an important country, without a strong country with its own capacities, and we might have been under threat by any other forces. Therefore, the building comprehensive forces is very important to stop any attempts to threaten Egypt in this regard. Maybe Mr. President highlighted that regional challenges impose on us, that we Egyptians have to be in solidarity to protect our capacities and borders. As long as the citizen is aware of what is occurring and what is being plotted against our country, and our goal is to protect our capacities, that will be our key to protect us. And I'd like to reassure you, we don't have to be afraid or worry about any external threats. The most important is to have internal resilience and awareness to face these unprecedented threats, which leads me actually for the first time to mention something that we mentioned last week, which was a bit controversial, and one of our the questions I received, that you have many, if you have many scenarios to deal with the challenges in the region, and as a response that we are prepared to every scenario, and in case events are escalated and turn to a region to a war in the region, we will run the country by what is called the war economy. And which was highly debated. I'd like to remind you, during the last meeting, we tackled the inspection of the 6th Armored Division, which is a very important division. Again, I'm reiterating President's phrase of building comprehensive strength, and I'd like to reassure our citizens, and we prayed that Egypt stay the country of unity and stability and peace. I'd like to tackle an important point today, that we were known as being transparent. We have to put all scenarios into considerations. When I say that a war, economy war, doesn't mean that Egypt is entering a war, but Egypt doesn't join a war unless it's threatened directly and was under threats by its borders and main capacities. Otherwise, Egypt is moving with balance, and our armed forces is to defend Egypt in case it is under threat, direct threat. So by saying this, we are talking about in-case scenarios. So if war is current war is escalated and our petroleum and nuclear institutions are targeted, what would happen? And if we have exchange, in firing, what would happen? That will have repercussions on everything. First of all, the petroleum prices and goods prices, and securing the delivery of goods to everyone, regardless its prices, to the whole world. So this is a scenario we have. The other scenario is the impact of this war on trade movement and all trade, logistics and mobility network. So we have to put all of this into our consideration. So our current scenario is how to deal with the current situations, passing by every extreme or worst case scenarios ever, that we pray to Allah that we never had to resort to it, and like the war, and as our role as a government to put this into consideration. Therefore, the economy war means that how to direct the country's resources to secure the basic needs to citizens and to their lives, how to ensure implementing this with the least harms or implications ever. So I'd like to remind you with COVID, when we directed our efforts to vaccines and to the health sectors, and how to have extra measures, and we had to reform the whole country's budget to deal with this. This is what we mean. In case any very big crisis to happen, that I challenge any expert may expect what would happen. So all of these are just guessing games. So we have as a country to put all the scenarios possible, including the worst case ones. So it's our role and our responsibility. I'd like to reiterate, Egypt, its stance is clear. We will not be a part of any wars unless we faced a direct threat to our borders and capacities. This is why we have to be prepared to any scenarios, and this is what we learned from the beginning of the crisis or the war on October 7th. We can review if any one of us would have ever imagined the repercussions of such a war, to expand to such areas, to stop the navigation system, and to impact the Suez Canal revenues, and to reduce it as well. No one had ever imagined that, but we learned from ground facts that we have to put every scenario possible into consideration. We are not intimidating anyone, or we are putting a worst case scenario just to be pessimistic, or we are not stopping investments. We're just being transparent, just to clarify our role as a country. I wanted to reiterate this point, but thank God, and this is what I mentioned in the closure of the last session, that to be reassured, and we have our precaution measures very well, very good, and this is our role again, is to put all possible scenarios into consideration. And maybe one of the things that I want to point in a positive way, that the economic experts, I hope that you followed up with the Goldman Sachs institution, which is one of the most important economic agencies in the world, that issued a very important report about Egypt. It stated a positive report that Egypt is moving into the right path, with stating that Egypt's reserve of foreign fund is increasing. It also refers that Egypt is moving very well in administrating the crisis and the huge period. All the indexes are moving upwards, and their expectations of this is to continue in the upcoming 2 years, unless anything external is to happen, unless the country was to drawn to anything out of control. And this is, and their expectations of inflation will decrease less than 10% by 2025. And this is exactly as what we determined according to the experts in this agency. Therefore, their directives, if Egypt is to move in this same direction, whether by encouraging investments areas as a first step, that was reviewed by the Minister of Investment and Trade last week. They said that Egypt's economy will continue to grow significantly in the upcoming period. I wanted to reiterate this in order to let you know how the world is seeing us, how they are seeing our steps towards this. And we are moving towards every structural reform we promised about. This is why I'm leaving the floor to the Minister to review it with you. One of the other positive issues that I mentioned in my visit to Luxor, today we will start the operating phase in the museum. And I don't want to exaggerate. That was done under the auspices and the direct observation of the president, which is considered as a glorious achievement to the country. And we will witness the inauguration of the operating phase of this museum, which will contribute to an attraction for many tourists once it's completed. I'd like to stop here and leave the floor to my colleague, the planning minister, and then we will receive questions. In the name of Allah, the name of the most compassionate, thank you, Dr. Mustafa. Maybe one of the most indexed is the GDP. The index is going up 3 months after the quarter ends. I have a presentation that we'll go through many developments because last year actually the first 3 quarters has a different form, and the last quarter, after implementing many economic reforms, we started to have the beginning of growth. So I'd like to go through the most important sections, which is a start to what is coming. I'd like to start the presentation. These are the rates during the last fiscal year 2023-2024. As we ended the year 2.4. The most important thing is 2 things. Number one, the geopolitical tensions and its impact on the Suez Canal. The second, number 2, is re-stabilizing the economy by shrinking or funding policies, which has an important role in re-stabilizing the economy. And also the investment governors had an impact, great impact on the GDP, but this governance is important to pave the way for private sectors. And also, as we witnessed yesterday, with many expectations about increasing the foreign investments. This is the quarter. There was a reduction of 30% comparing to the previous year, and there was also a small reduction, a big reduction on the Suez Canal revenues, and it's reflecting on the net imports, because Suez Canal is included in our external budget. Also, if we look to the imports, we'd like to divide the year of the first 3 quarters and the last quarter. The 3 first quarters is before the central bank resolutions. As we know, we had some negative impacts on paying off the dues for foreigners. Of course, the Petroleum Minister, I know that he has a presentation with the Prime Minister. He will tackle the plans and the methods that implemented till now in paying off the dues. One more time is to increase investments, which will have positive impact on the new year, fiscal year. The extraction sections is 7% of the GDP, which has a direct impact on what happened in the quarter and the fiscal year outcome. The contribution of this sector is about 15%, and I'd like to show that during the year there was 5% reduction, but the last quarter has an increase, which is an important point, because the reforms that were taking place in March is opening chances for foreign funds and currencies that impacted the revenues. And so we've seen a positive turn in the last quarter, and which was an important point with the new government or cabinet, which was one of the most important axes to coordinating between all ministries. Which was highlighted is the coordination with the ministry, with other foreign ministers, and now we are talking about this a very important activity for different sectors. And also I'd like to inform you the most important sectors is the ready-made garments, textiles, information and technology. So we talked about transformative sectors. These are the important ones. And once again, when we view the economic area for Suez Canal, it attracted more than one new company in these different fields. We've seen a reduction in many sectors, in several sectors. As you're seeing, it has a positive outcome in information technology, tourism, and also on the background of inaugurating the museum will be more attraction in this regard, because it's doubling the job opportunities as well and the workforce. So the expansion we are witnessing in this regard in various fields is enhancing this sector. These are the main three sectors. Extractions during this year that was reduced, but it increased at the end. But we also had good performance with activities. We want to look at the expenditure component, because this is one of the most important axes, and to prioritize the axis, and the most important point is to leave a space or open a space for private investment. So in 2023-2024, you can see that the expenditure or the investment has decreased, and there was also a decrease in Suez Canal imports. That is the outcome that significantly was apparent, and this is because again to ensure the stability of the whole of the economy as a whole. And I also would like to say something about gas and petroleum. We've seen that this area of renewable energy has a significant increase, and a concern from many companies. Maybe the investment plan we increased the network investments to move it to the network to meet different needs, whether in industry sector or other sectors. We put it with coordination with with other ministries in the country. So we are going on with the measures and the measures to boost the whole economy. We also, maybe my colleague in ministries reviewed in the last week as the comprehensive politics aiming at having economy growth with the more participation of private sector. As President Sisi also all statements states that many gaps we have are considered as investments opportunities, and we are working on them currently. So we also have man capital investments and other types of investments to increase sustainable development. Other important point, which is the most important, is to have narratives to citizens to what we are doing. So there's a baseline and another scenario to review if there is any risks, whether positive or negative. So maybe for the first time we have it in details in English and Arabic for the economic growth and the outcomes of the year and the outcomes of the quarter. And we will continue doing this for all indexes, because it's important for you to review the analysis, not just the statement, but its analysis as well. And we will continue doing this periodically. And it's very important because this is the report in English and Arabic, and it's work with categorizing institutions. We have to have a coordinated, detailed statements. So therefore, when we have a resolution, we have to know its repercussions on investment and the country. It has to be published, and you have to review. So you can find all this on the minister's links and different institutions. The second part is to stabilize the comprehensive economy, which is necessary, but it has to be synchronized with structural reform, because reform is an ongoing process. The international changes, the competitiveness means that we have to adapt to these challenges with flexibility and rapidness. So we put them into three main axes, reflecting the priorities of the country. Number one, the overall growth resilience, which means that we have to be more resilient than ever in face of more than external shocks, to be able to adapt or to face these challenges. And we have measures that were implemented, and there was also measures to come. Number two is to enhance the competitiveness or competition environment, which is the second important axis, as we try to attract investments. As we said, every investment gap is opportunity to invest. Number three is to green transformation. No investor will be attracted now unless we have green developments, green sustainable investments, in which investors can implement or fulfill important green goals for their companies. As a ministry, we implement all of this with different authorities. Another important point, which is we coordinate with other authorities by having facilitated funds aiming at fulfilling the reforms. So it has two important parts. Reforms important for us. On the second part is to allow funds for the country, which reduce the cost as a country for supporting budget. This is a budget showing the number of ministries and authorities contributing in the reforms. In front of you, if you go through an axis by axis, the most important is the first one is to enhance the overall economy growth. I can see that my colleagues observing the financial part. We also have here the aim of every measure, the specification adjustments, which is one of the most important architectural reforms in the overall economy. The different ceilings we have for different economies types. We also have activating the unifying financial growth. We also have wanted all the expenditure to be tied to performance indexes, which were implemented with the coordination of several ministries. And in our ministry, we have very strong governance in this regard, and also the repercussions of the reform on the network the social security network. So there was an increase of the beneficiaries of Takaful wal Karama, and also inaugurating the observatory for social protection. All of these are different measures in the first axis. The second axis about competition in finance ministry, we have more than one measure with the electronic purchase having the first margin for with the initial exemptions. There is more than one architectural reforms are implemented with new incentives and standards of new projects in 2017. Also the investment environment and implementing the investment licenses. I don't want to go through all of them, but each measure was coined because it had more than one requirements, and it was evaluated to increase our capacity to attract investments and at the same time increasing the GDP. Also, we have when we talk about entrepreneurs, and we aim at having IPs for new companies, as it's important. A draft resolution also for Parliament on simple disputes, also tax exemptions and state and country-state institutions, which was one of the standards included. Also, competition law protection law is important as well, and has specific measures aiming at increasing the competition capacity. If we look to the third axis, which is transforming to green economy, we have also more than one measures that were implemented. In regards to the private sector, any investor coming to any country can start investment if he has a way to evaluate their ability to reduce emissions, which was already achieved by the Supreme Council for Energy. In June, we issued that Egypt will have renewable energy by 2030. We issued publishment regulating the UTP. This is the third measure, and it's important because it allows the private sector to deal with the consumer and the producer by their own. Also, we have the power capacity. The first measure is the plan to limit losses in distributive companies, which was an important reform, and also a draft law in regards to drinking water. We had to complete it because it's an important part. Other measures in legalizing carbon markets. We know now that carbon credits is very important, so the authority managed two things in this regard, which is on top of which is the decarbonization, which is one of the effective measures in attracting green investments, expanding the allocated lands. These are some of our partners, and we have budget based on this. The upcoming is that, as you remember, we have doing business report issued by the International World Bank. We now have different standards. We work with them, and it's important. As you know, we always have a rule. We also have a comparison between among the countries. So we are keen on working very institutionally to meet the standards, which will give us credit and authentication for what we are doing as a country. Also, you know that the OECD, this quarterly program is divided into different field axes. We have statistics, sustainable development, economic growth, and others. We have the many authorities including in this program and projects. So the most importantly is OECD survey. It's with different ministries to allow reforms, therefore allow more investments. We also have the mechanism of many different areas. We also have a new measure in addition to the others that I've just mentioned in regards to architecture reforms. Last I'd like to end with is the expenditure governors. For those who don't know, public investments is divided. 42% for human development and investments. The other things, projects and investments in industry and basic infrastructure, and 20% for governorates. This is the current plan, and in the upcoming period, you will see the indexes of implementing them. And we are going on and governance in the upcoming period, maybe next week. We have meeting with the International Monetary Fund, and we work with institutions in a very important thing called evaluation of governance evaluation in regards to climate. This thing allows us to analyze more analysis for different investments. I'd like to show you the development for humanitarian investments in the last 10 years. And also we have Hayat Karima initiative in the governorate, and it has its allocations. When we say public investment governance, we have main three things, as you see on the screen. Lastly, we have financial equivalation that includes different indexes and axes. So in general, we determining investments has its own regulations. I'd like to stop here, and I'd like to thank you. So I'd like to leave the floor to Petroleum Minister to speak in details about the steps that were made in resolving the issues facing Egypt, whether in paying off the dues for foreign investors and our expectations in the next period. And hopefully the numbers will be very well, so he will be with us in the upcoming conference to give a clear message in the light of the debates that we have, or the guessing stipulations we have in regards to petroleum and everything. So everything will be clear in front of you next upcoming period that aims the growth and the development. We will open the floor to questions now. I'd like to ask two questions. The first one, the cabinet approved establishing financial assistance for Nile Basin countries. How that will achieve a success between the two countries. The second thing is Saudi Arabia, in regards to Saudi Arabia, how can we benefit from entrepreneurs in investing local investment to attract local investments to our country? Allow me, I will answer the first one. Nowadays, in the light of our vision, especially to the South Nile Basin, hopefully we will target assisting those countries in a framework of cooperation and partnership, and Egypt's important role. We will be able to do all possible studies and funding and implementing developmental countries to the people there. And of course, these projects will specifically within the framework of serving local economy and meeting the needs of the people there, which that will help, that will strengthen Egypt's strengthen these countries. Egypt, as you know, was very present in the 50s and the 60s, but now we are present again starting from 2013 and 2015, and this will contribute to more pushing and enhancing the cooperation between us and the Basin Nile countries. Of course, entrepreneurship is considered one of the priorities, important priorities, even before the new cabinet, Mr. President established it under the Prime Minister. Now we have different groups, and maybe recently we added the entrepreneurship as well. The first meeting was held, we listened to what was expected. Maybe there was there were more than one previous meetings with them before. We want to have integration in this regard. If you can notice, there is more than one mechanism and more than one initiative. We want to coordinate them in order not to have repetitive initiatives. The second thing is that there are many studies made on the methods to enhance their existence. Currently, the number 3 is how to intensify technology, because everyone is saying the middle income trap, or we can overcome this trap with entrepreneurship, scientific research, and working on this. As you said, many of these companies in Egypt can start here and then expand outside the country. So the aim is how to encourage them not only to continue, but also to partner with other companies across the world. And the outcomes of these groups will be available. Yes, the first one, please. Of course, yesterday was an important visit for the Saudi Crown Prince, and there was signed an important of protecting investments between the two countries. I'd like to know the worth of aimed investments, especially that $15 billion will be pumped into Egypt And we would like to know if there will be a legal committee formed to protect investments in the two countries, and thank you. First of all, we discussed with the agreement there'll be fields that will focus the investments in it, which is renewable energy, industry, tourism, and urban development. These are the the sectors we will focus on as a start. And most importantly, is not between the two governments, but also the private sector, which plays a vital role in the two countries, and it has very big investments. So we hope through the mechanism we signed yesterday, which will be based upon the constitutional measures, of course, and it has to be reviewed by the Parliament and approved by the Parliament to be effective. So we are moving towards those steps, but of course now we have complete communication, whether by the Saudi fund or by other authorities, to discuss investment opportunities in Egypt. So as I told you, we don't have numbers yet because the projects are huge, but we will start publishing them one by one when we start implementing them. So the context and the framework already was put to the mechanism with the investment project between countries will be governated within this framework. Yes, thank you. Go ahead, please. After government's announcement that many banks there were many news yesterday about Egypt selling banks and airports, so I'd like a confirmation from you. Let's start first with the first instance. I talked about airports, we talked about administration and operation of airports. As the word is moving in this regard, I'd like to reiterate that there was no intention to sell airports. Airports are public properties for state, so any project taking place is about operating and administrating, but it's owned to the state, Egypt state. So the banks is a different sector. We have banks owned by state and banks owned by the private sector. So even what is being tendered with shares in the available banks according to the law. But we as a state, we have public banks completely owned by state, but there is shares in other banks that can be offered to bid or tender. There was a report issued by the Statistics Authority referring to the budget deficit in July, comparing to the last year. There was other important numbers referred to the Egypt revenues increased to 23% of petroleum to 80%. Would like to know Egypt's aim in increasing imports. Is that deficit because of certain challenges, or is it going to continue in the upcoming months? Also, the report that was presented today, the main sectors are responsible for growth is going or making negative numbers. Maybe the citizens are are concerned with prices and job opportunities. I'd like to know your plan. Thank you so much. When we look, as I said, there are two main components affecting the economic activity. First of all, the developments on the area and its impact on Suez Canal. And so the Suez Canal is in the external budget. This is the first thing. The second thing, the year itself, prior to March 2024 resolutions, there was problems in the production materials. So this is why the pace of industry was not as fast as the last year. That increased or improved a bit better in the last quarter. You know that there is a production cycle then imported. So we are expecting this quarter we will see the outcome or the good implications in resolving the production material. You mentioned July. This July was the month after the end of the fiscal year. The same thing applies to architecture reforms, that we cannot see the outcome for 6 months out from now. So we can see the outcome of the measure and the outcome of its imports. This is what we have to consider, but we are talking about exports of extractions that will be reviewed with the minister next week, and how they regained the stability in this regard. And also the revenues of petroleum was really clear. And also I'd like to remind you, when we promised to stop cutting off power in summer, so we had to pump extraordinary investments to do this. So as I said, our clear plan is to reduce the needs of importing petroleum in order to replace it with new and renewable energy. Many resources, many solutions and alternatives is to maximizing the electricity production with the less usage of petroleum possible. So that will start to reduce in the upcoming stages, and we will review it in details. Go ahead, please. In regards to President's call to incentives, we encouraged the investors to. We encouraged the investors and the private sector. What do you think about the amount of investments implemented in 2023-2024? How much is the amount? Let's talk about incentives, and the minister will talk about the other part. I'd like to remind you that we determined that more than 150 group, which is our investment exceeds about more than 25%. The industry group is concerned mainly about this and facilitating measures and giving license, allocating plots on lands, implementing incentives, and also the fund. Also, Egypt to put into this pack of industries. That is one of our top priorities within the 150 opportunities that we mentioned, which is the amount of imports. Here, the numbers that we mentioned here of the plan is 280 billion expenditures for deficit. It's divided 42 for humanitarian development of the 82 billion dollars, which with different ministries, and in the governors itself, any project has 70% completed will go on. We put a hold on the new projects to implement the current investments with our current with the measures that we have and the incentives we have. When we heighten the public expenditures, we don't have any other option except for the private sector to bridge this gap. Mr. Prime Minister is signing protection encouraging Saudi investments, paving the way to major projects between the two countries in the upcoming stage. There was also an announcement for Mr. Wathiq Billah on the possibility using local currencies in trade exchange between the two countries, and also tackle both banks, Egypt and Saudi Bank, will complete this by the end of this fiscal year. Is this possible? Thank you. Again, signing the agreement is to protect and encourage exchanged investments, not only in Saudi Arabia, not only here, but also the Egyptian investment in Saudi Arabia, because now many of the big part of Egypt's investment is in Saudi Arabia itself. And I'd like to reiterate that will encourage more exchange investments, and also important is to form partnerships between the companies in two countries to benefit from this. The issue of dealing with two currencies, that will be coordinated between the two banks based on the tradal exchange and our capacity to implement this, and this will be studied by the local or central banks, and we will issue the appropriate resolution. Prime Minister, there was a meeting with the central bank president, and there was we talked about the resource of supporting fund in Egypt. There will be an incentives for expatriates outside. I'd like to know the special impacts on what's going on in Gaza and Lebanon on the Suez Canal.
وجزء أخير خاص بإصلاحات كثيرة تم العمل عليها خلال الفترة الماضية، وحاليا التسويق لهذه الإصلاحات مع المستثمرين على الجانب الخارجي سواء إقليميا أو دوليا. إلى أي مدى ممكن توصيل هذه المعلومات للمستثمرين في الخارج حتى يتم الاستفادة بأكبر قدر ممكن؟ شكرا فندم.
طيب نتكلم بس على تحويلات.
I'd like to talk about in the first part of your question. Last month we fulfilled the biggest number, which is about $3 billion for Egypt, for transactions to Egyptians outside. So as long as our political financial policies is going well, that will also go well. So when we talk about investments, we are talking about long-term investments, so it does exceed the duration of the dispute that will be temporary, no matter how long it goes on for. So the new projects we are signed now will increase in the upcoming period, and again there will be a meeting with the president of the authority maybe tomorrow. I follow up with him in all projects to focus attract big companies to invest here. As the minister said, the joint conferences and meetings with the European Union countries, recently there was France, and next week, as she said, the economic group also with its annual meetings, which will be an opportunity to review what is going on in Egypt. I'd like to add one more thing. The cooperation, international cooperation, includes funds for foreign investments in Egypt. So the outcomes we see with the funds to foreign companies that work in Egypt. We just arrived for Hamburg conference for sustainability, and we signed with the German government agreement to fund green hydrogen. So it's how about to mobilize investments from different authorities across the world, and choosing different sectors, or talk about dry ports, new or renewable energy, or talk about green hydrogen, and even the electric link between Saudi Arabia and Egypt. So it is a great, a strong resource, because we need funds, even financial funds, even from developmental banks, as our ties are very good with them, so they can reduce the cost of implementing inside Egypt, which is one of the strength points to attract these investments. Last question, please. Prime Minister, I think that the tourism file, we fulfilled about 8 million tourists, attracted about 8 million tourists, and others expect that we are reaching the $14 million in this file, especially that we are to start the trial operational phase for the Grand Museum. We followed up the upcoming we witnessed the catastrophic or the tragic event, what happened to one of the students in the universities. So if we witnessed the events, we can see that many flows in the bridge and the roads sector impact this. Can government move forward in this file, as you reviewed the initiative of building Egyptian man? So can we reduce these repetitive accidents, as Egypt didn't save any efforts to develop roads? Thank you. Let's start with tourism. It's one of our top priorities, and we said that we will lean on four different sectors in creating job opportunities and pushing the growth, which is agriculture, tourism, information technology, and tourism. So you mentioned this is one of our impacts, the impacts we have. Our vision before this crisis, that we could have exceeded more than 18 million tourists, but unfortunately the crisis that took place impacted this sector, but not that much, because the tourism sector is still witnessing a big leap. But our plan, Egypt, hopefully in the upcoming years, will double the number of tourists during the year through airport projects. And a part of enhancing, administrating, and operating airports is to double the number of tourists, because it's a part of the whole system, as how to increase the touristic rooms. And so when we mention the rapid train, is to serve tourism. When we build the new touristic destinations, whether on Red Sea or the Med Sea, is to increase the touristic room. And in regard to what you said, I'd like to seize the opportunity to extend my condolences to those who died and their families in the accident, because it actually pleaded our heart. It broke our heart because despite the big and the huge developments that were implemented in the road sectors, there's still some accidents. It's reduced down way than before. There was more intensifying for monitoring drivers and how to ensure periodic and constant inspection, not only with renewing license, but to be periodic inspection and to be more intensified to avoid any such accidents, such as the one in Galala. Of course, it was a human mistake by the driver, but we will move forward positively in this regard significantly in order to reduce these type of questions. I would like to thank you all. Thank you.